The time is just gone 10 minutes past 8 now. Former Minister Ronnie Kasrils has come under fire and saying that he opposes all forms of racism. He supports the rights of all people living under military occupation to armed resistance, and he opposes and regrets all loss of life. And these are principles that he says he holds with regard to the race of the oppressor or the oppressed. And also at the same time, he has come under fire. He's come under fire for writing an article that appeared in the Daily Maverick, where we found people like the board of the Brentis Foundation, and includes people like Richard Myers, the the former chairman and of Joint Chief of Staff in the U.S., Nick Carter, the former Chief of Defense Staff in the United Kingdom, and also looking at people like Greg Mills, who have accused Ronnie Kasrils of having no moral compass. And to unpack all of this, we're going across now to be joined by my brother Osama Nazzal. Osama, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Welcome.
Yes, clearly this war is being fought on many, many fronts right across the entire world. You know, we've seen think tanks, we've seen the media narratives, we've seen the military war that is taking place in Gaza and also in other areas of Palestine. And it is clear that there are many people across the world that don't like when something is written, pro-Palestinian, when the pro-Palestinian narrative is being said. And at the end of the day, we find that, these people are brutally being attacked, like we've seen in the case of our very own former cabinet minister, Ronnie Kasrils.
Yeah, for sure. It is part of history that you find people on the part of justice, on the side of justice, and people on the other side, the wrong side of history. So the people who support the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian people, and who call for pressing Israel not only to end its genocide campaign against the people in Gaza, but also to end its colonization project and its occupation of the Palestinian territory, are, of course, attacked and assaulted by the people who chose to be on the wrong side of history. And we see how there is a campaign by those people who are part of the Zionist movement, who are part of the colonization movement, who are fighting against the indigenous people, against the rights of the natives, and against the human rights everywhere, especially in the United States, as we saw the campaign against the universities, for example, because some of these universities allow the students the right of expression and the freedom of expression and opinion. And they had tried to dismiss some heads of these universities because they don't put an end to these students' campaigns. Also, we see how in Germany that the government and the police attack the demonstrators who take to the streets in protest of the Israeli occupation crimes against the Palestinians, and who call for the rights of the Palestinians in France and in other countries around the world. But of course, the vocal voice and the victorious voice is the voice of those who are taking every day to the streets in hundreds of thousands and call for justice and for the rights of the Palestinian people. So this article, or this assault against the former cabinet minister for his support for justice and the human rights, really was not a surprise when I heard of it.
Yes, but also I think, when one looks at one of the major talking points, and this comes from the pro-Zionist lobby, talking about Hamas and its right to armed resistance. And Ronnie Kasrils makes mention of this in this article, where he says he supports the rights of all people living under military occupation to armed resistance and oppose, and at the same time he regrets the loss of a civilian life. And at the same time, he makes reference to the 2017 Hamas Charter, which remains obviously with a position talking about, although it's in conflict with the Zionist project, but it says Hamas and the charter makes it clear that it rejects the persecution of any human being or the undermining of his or her rights on national, religious, or sectarian grounds. Now, Hamas has made it very, very clear, but it appears as if the Hamas Charter is being completely misunderstood, particularly by the pro-Israel or the pro-Zionist lobbies.
Now, when we talk about the propaganda and the campaign by the pro-Zionist lobbies and the positions mainly in some Western countries, we are talking about their position against the whole of the Palestinian people and the whole of the Palestinian national cause, not against one party without the other. And we saw the statement by the Israeli Prime Minister yesterday and days before, talking about that he won't allow the return of Gaza to Hamasistan or Fatihistan. So we are talking here about the national Palestinian movement with all its political faction and about the struggle of all of the Palestinian people, the struggle for freedom and for justice, and at the same time for entrenching the principles of peace, because without justice for the Palestinians, there won't be peace in this region. So this is an organized campaign really by the Zionist regime and by the Zionist lobby in the United States and in Europe and in other parts of the world against the Palestinian cause, because the aim is now is to liquidate and to end the cause of Palestine once and forever, and to entrench the Zionist colonial regime, to grab all of the Palestinian land and to have the Zionist colonial regime on all the territory between the river and the sea. And we saw how the Israeli Prime Minister in the United Nations raised the map or claiming that this is the map of Israel without mentioning anything about the Palestinian people and the Palestinian right to statehood and justice. So this is a war really. This is a media war, if you like to call it. This is a narrative war against the history, the present, and the future of the Palestinian people. Now, the Palestinian revolution, with all the factions of Palestine, are clear in their principles and in their programs and agendas. They are all calling for justice for the people of Palestine and for peaceful life for the people of Palestine, and they are not calling for the ending of the existence of any state or any people at all. All that the Palestinians ask for is freedom, independence, and justice for themselves and for all the peoples of the world. The Palestinian people don't hate any people on this planet.
Yes. Now, also, the former minister is writing from a position where he understands occupation, he understands oppression, he understands apartheid. And this criticism against him is coming from people who were and are colonizers themselves. They've colonized many countries. They've been part and parcel of many genocides. They've been part and parcel of millions that have been killed. For example, two of the individuals, Myers and Carter, these were people that took leading roles in the destruction of Iraq. And when we know that there was a huge price that Iraq had paid, over 1 million lives that were lost, these were war crimes on its own. So, these perpetrators at this point in time are banding together and being critical of someone like the former minister, as I mentioned, for one simple reason, because he understands what apartheid is. He understands what occupation really means.
Yeah, for sure. And if you go a little bit more back in history, you see that these people are now existent and they are built their state and their entity at the level of the indigenous people. We know the history of the United States and how the indigenous people of North America were exterminated by the supremacist white colonizers who came from Britain to the United States, and how they removed all of the indigenous people in order to establish their regime that is based on the principles of colonialism and on the replacement of the other. And we know that the United States governments, the successive governments, how their hands are stained with the blood of millions of peoples around the world. We saw how the United States, for example, tried to colonize Vietnam, and how many people were killed in Vietnam defending their country and their right to freedom and justice. And we saw in the modern history the American attack on Iraq and how they killed a million Iraqis, just as you mentioned. And we see until today the impact of the American occupation of Iraq and the suffering that Iraq is still going through. We saw how the Americans occupied Afghanistan and the pogroms and the massacres that they committed. And we see today how the Americans are sending their experts of genocide, experts of colonization, experts of murder and killing to Israel in order to advise and help the Israeli war criminals to kill as many as possible of the Palestinians in Gaza, and to turn Gaza into dust, and to end the existence of the indigenous people of Palestine and replace them with colonizers coming from the United States and Europe and other parts of the world. So this is part of the history of the people that you are mentioned, my brother, and they can't live without having this kind of animosity against the indigenous people, not only in Palestine, but in other places, because they think that their civilization can grow and can develop by colonization and by attacking the properties, the lands, and the wealth of the others.
Brother Osama, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to go for a quick ad break. I'll be back with you in a minute.
Thank you.
Vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Conveniently located along the banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park, as a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savannah will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Butler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
The kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
Diamond.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
We continue our discussion this morning with Osama Nazzal, Palestinian affairs analyst, against the background of an article that Ronnie Kasrils has written, and he's come under criticism from certain quarters. Brother Osama, just to continue, and I'd like your thoughts on one state versus a two-state solution, because the former minister expressed his personal view, saying that there should be a singular, secular, democratic state with rights for all, along the lines of post-apartheid South Africa. And this seems to be misunderstood from right across the entire world, because even looking at the Hamas Charter, which he makes reference to again, he says it does not call for the replacement of the Israeli ethno-state with a single inclusive state, and clearly accepts a two-state solution with a Palestinian state with the 1967 borders. So I just needed your thoughts on this discussion and this debate that is always taking place on a one-state versus a two-state solution.
Yeah, really, in light of the current condition and the Israeli genocide campaign against all of the Palestinian people, whether in Gaza or in the West Bank and Jerusalem, it is very difficult to talk about a solution now, about the one-state solution or the two-state solution. But anyway, what is demanded by the Palestinian people is the end of the Israeli occupation and the establishment of justice in order to allow the Palestinian generations to come to live in freedom, just like other children and other people in the world. Now, the Palestinians accepted the United Nations resolutions that calls for a state of Palestine on the land occupied in 1967, beside the state of Israel in peace and security. Provided that Israel withdraws all its military forces of all the land occupied in 1967, and it dismantles all of the colonial settlements that it built in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. Until now, this is the Palestinian vision for a solution of the conflict. But on the ground, it seems that it's no longer possible, because Israel killed any opportunity for the achievement of this solution. It built settlements everywhere in the occupied West Bank, and if you have an opportunity to come and visit the Palestinian territory, you're going to see how it is cut off into pieces, because it is punctuated either by the Israeli settlements or the Israeli military camps and military towers and military checkpoints. So I think that the failure of the two-state solution is owed to the conspiracy and to the condemnation of the international community and its silence on the Israeli colonial project and expansion of settlements. Apart from that, Israel, instead of working for peace and for solving the conflict once and forever, it is reoccupying the Gaza Strip nowadays by killing tens of thousands. Today morning, the statistics show that 20,060 Palestinians have been killed since the 7th of October until today in the Gaza Strip, and more than 303 people were killed here in the occupied West Bank. So when we are talking about the plan and the policy that Israel has, and sorry to say that it is supported by most of the Western governments, including Biden administration in the United States, we are talking about a plan of ending the existence of the Palestinian people by killing, by expelling, by uprooting, by destroying everything. If you see the Gaza city today and the refugee camps of Gaza, you can differentiate between the cities that were demolished during the Second World War and what Gaza looks today. So talking about a solution right now is really pessimistic, and without clear support from the Arab and the Muslim nation for the Palestinian people, I think that things are getting complicated, and talking about solutions is not getting any currency nowadays. What we need to talk about is how to save the lives of the Palestinians and to stop the genocide campaign that Israel is carrying out today.
Yes, just talking about the Arab nations, now that you've mentioned it, and I'd just like your thoughts on what they've done so far. Have they achieved much? Have they not achieved anything else? What is their real position? Because there's a lot of criticism. We know there is a disconnect between the people on the ground and the regimes and the governments and the leaderships themselves in the Arab world. And just your thoughts, on their sincerity in finding a solution for the people of Palestine.
If we talk about the government's position, I think it is more than shameful. They are watching the Palestinians in Gaza being slaughtered. It is a real onslaught by Israel against the Palestinian people for the 77 days. And all that we hear from them, just words without actions. And we saw how the United States has been delaying the session of the International Security Council for about 5 days just to issue a resolution asking for access of humanitarian assistance to the Gaza Strip and for stopping the Israeli hostilities against the Palestinians. And it did not succeed. And we see how the Arabs governments are doing nothing to pressure the United States to stop its enmity against the Palestinian people. Because when we talk about the American administration today, we are not talking about only support for Israel, but partnership. It is partner with Israel in the genocide campaign against the Gaza Strip, as most of the weapons that Israel is getting are coming from the United States. We see how the American officials are participating in the meetings of the war cabinet of Israel. They send their experts, their military, their drones and planes to participate in this war against the Palestinian people in Gaza. And despite all these crimes and all the support by the Americans to Israel, we see how the Arab governments are doing nothing, and they don't use any of the weapons or the cars that they have. And the Palestinians announced from day one they don't want the Arab governments to send their army or their weapons in support of the Palestinian people. All that we need is a position from these governments, for example, to use the oil as an economic weapon that is very effective, and it can help much stop the Israeli genocide campaign against the Palestinians, to raise the prices of oil, for example. but they don't do that, and they go in line with the American policy. You know that the Palestinians in Gaza now are facing starvation. The children of Gaza are thirsty. The hospitals, you know, there are no clinics and no medical centers and no hospitals in North Gaza, and the patients and the wounded in North Gaza are dying. And the hospitals in South Gaza that are still operating are operating with their, and they don't have equipment. And the Arab governments are not able to open Rafah a crossing to challenge Israel and the United States, and to open Rafah a crossing just for humanitarian aid, for water. Imagine Gaza has no water. The people in Gaza are drinking the salty, polluted sea water, and that's why we see the disease breakout there. So what can we talk about such a position when we talk about the Arab governments who were expected to be on the side of their brothers, the Palestinians, who have been suffering for 75 years of oppression and subjugation?
Well, Brother Osama, Jazakallah khairan so much for that. We unfortunately time has run out, but we're going to have to leave it at that. But as always, we do appreciate you taking time out. We say Jazakallah khairan to you. We continue in our support, our unwavering support. We continue in our du'as, our prayers, and we will continue highlighting the injustices and the oppression against the people of Palestine, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you. Shukran. Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.
Osama Nazzal, Palestinian affairs analyst, with us this morning. With that, we're going to go for a break. We come back. We'll be focusing on Mozambique's 2023 elections with Professor Adriano Nuvunga.